70 million years ago, in the vast, untamed wilderness of prehistoric Asia, a peculiar sight unfolded. A creature that might be metaphorically described as a royal pig, perhaps a small armored ankylosaurid, or a peculiar plump mammal, moved cautiously, its fate tied to its unlikely owner, a velociraptor. This particular raptor, a lean hunter adorned with sleek, dark feathers, had a vital mission today: to secure food for its waiting brood. Its sharp, intelligent eyes scanned the dry, cracked earth. This parched landscape, surprisingly, teemed with small lizards scuttling among the rocks and sparse vegetation. There was a very specific reason for this abundance. A terrifying giant beast dominated this sprawling territory. That terrifying giant was the Tarbosaurus rex, the formidable apex predator of Asia, an ecological equivalent to its North American cousin, the Tyrannosaurus rex. Its sheer size and power commanded respect, and its presence subtly shaped the entire ecosystem around it. The lingering, pungent smell of decaying meat that inevitably clung to the massive Tarbosaurus, a testament to its recent kills, acted as an irresistible beacon, attracting swarms of flies. These iridescent insects, in turn, drew the small, nimble lizards, which found an easy, unending feast. The sheer number of these gargantuan Tarbosauruses inhabiting the region meant that the fly population here was consistently high, creating a miniature, bustling food chain around these giants. Such a colossal Tarbosaurus, perhaps one that had just gorged itself on a freshly downed sauropod, lay sprawled in a sun-drenched clearing, its massive belly distended. Under normal circumstances, these tiny, skittering lizards didn't disgust the Tarbosaurus. In fact, to some extent, they served a useful purpose, helping to eat the pesky flies that would otherwise irritate the sleeping titan. However, the wonders of nature often intertwine slowly, unpredictably, in ways that defy simple logic. And so, the Velociraptor, driven by the gnawing hunger in its belly and the urgent needs of his family, could only choose to take immense risks, venturing perilously close to the sleeping giants. Unlike the exaggerated, scaly, and roaring monsters depicted in modern movies, true velociraptors were far more nuanced creatures. They were, in reality, covered in a dense coat of feathers, providing insulation and a sleek avian appearance. Their fighting ability, while impressive for their size, was not as exaggerated as cinematic portrayals suggest. They were intelligent, coordinated hunters, but not invincible super predators. Don't even mention attempting to directly confront a Tarbosaurus rex. Such an encounter would be suicidal. If it accidentally awakened a Tarbosaurus, startling it from its slumber, the Velociraptor would suffer greatly, likely perishing instantly under a single thunderous stomp or a crushing bite. This immense, slumbering form was our Tarbosaurus, a truly awe-inspiring force of nature. Fortunately for the daring raptor, this particular group of Tarbosauruses had recently eaten their fill, their irritation levels consequently low. Sated and lethargic, they had lost interest in sleeping soundly. Their instincts were now subtly shifting towards a new objective. Their massive bodies stirred, and they were ready to go out for a heist, seeking out another less energetically demanding opportunity. Not far away, concealed by a cluster of gnarled ancient trees, a leftover dinosaur carcass, picked clean by scavengers but still holding remnants of meat, lay unowners. A group of pterosaurs, rulers of the ancient skies, circled patiently overhead, their keen eyes fixed on the carrion. They knew that once the massive Tarbosaurus walked away, leaving the immediate vicinity unguarded, they could descend to steal a quick meal. Many pterosaurs were natural foragers, depending on their aerial advantage to scout for food. Their dietary needs generally not as large as the terrestrial behemoths. It's crucial to remember that pterosaurs were not dinosaurs, but distinct flying reptiles, and they shared an equal, if often competitive, relationship with the dinosaur family within the Mesozoic ecosystem. While some pterosaurs were truly enormous, with wingspans the size of small airplanes, others were not quite so large. For these smaller pterosaurs, a combination of their aerial agility, significant terrain features, and sheer numbers meant they could theoretically avoid most land-based predators. But nothing in the unforgiving wild is absolute. Our Velociraptor, observing from a concealed vantage point, was the first to disagree with this notion of absolute safety. The scientific name of the Velociraptor is actually Velociraptor mongolensians, which translates to Swift Caesar from Mongolia, though popular media often simplified its name to emphasize its ferocity. Although it had feathers, giving it a bird-like appearance, it absolutely could not fly. The feathers' main function was still to keep its warm-blooded body insulated, crucial for its high metabolism. However, this particular individual, driven by a desperate need for food, was incredibly daring. It eyed a perilous cliff face, a jagged descent that seemed almost impassable. A single wrong step on the crumbling rock face would mean plummeting to its death, shattering into pieces on the unforgiving ground below. The small pterosaurs, currently feasting on the carcass, were also very cautious, their delicate senses alert. Once something felt wrong, even a whisper of a threat, they would instantly spread their vast membranous wings and launch themselves into the sky, escaping effortlessly. So this hunt, far from a brute force attack, was a technical job, demanding precision, patience, and impeccable timing. However, the Velociraptors had their own compelling reasons to fight hard and take such risks. Their evolution had sculpted them into highly specialized hunters. A hardened, muscular body, combined with their unique plumage, allowed them to perfectly control their balance, acting like a natural gyroscope. Their large, stiffened tails, functioning as counterweights and rudders, could maintain perfect equilibrium even on the most precarious ledges. This incredible adaptation meant that areas with less than 90 degrees of incline effectively counted as navigable slopes for them, giving them access to terrain most predators couldn't dream of traversing. Yet, their opportunities were fleeting and limited. Once they initiated their strike, if they failed to secure prey, everything invested, the risk, the energy, the precious time, would be in vain, leaving them even hungrier. Fortunately, the deep, resonating roar of a nearby waterfall provided a natural, powerful acoustic cover, masking the hunter's stealthy movements. This natural soundscape also gave them enough time to approach their unsuspecting prey, inching closer with silent determination. When the distance between both parties was just right, the moment arrived to divide the roles, a practiced choreography of death. The female, lighter and perhaps more agile, would attack from above, leaping from a higher perch. The two larger males would stay low, controlling the ground area, ready to cut off escape routes. Once everything was perfectly set, the hunting moment began, a sudden, explosive burst of predatory fury. Clearly, this cooperation, despite their training, was not perfectly executed this time. After some frantic struggling, a blur of feathers and frantic wings, they only managed to catch one pterosaur, its cries sharp and piercing before being silenced. However, this was not the time for infighting or disappointment. The entire canyon's pterosaur population had been startled by the commotion, their collective alarm cries echoing through the air. So naturally, they wouldn't let the terrestrial hunters be arrogant or enjoy their prize undisturbed. During the struggle, the precious prey of the constrictor dragon, another term for Velociraptor, perhaps highlighting its grip, accidentally fell off the cliff, tumbling down the treacherous face. The female constrictor dragon, witnessing her hard-won meal vanishing, directly chose to jump off, following the falling body with a desperate leap of faith. Fortunately, her dense feathers softened the fall, acting as a natural parachute and cushion, so she landed bruised but without major issues, a testament to her robust frame. After retrieving the food, she hurriedly scrambled back up, escaping with her prize. However, the other two males, still on the upper ledge, were now in trouble, facing the ire of the startled pterosaur flock without the benefit of the female's aerial maneuvers. The reason the female constrictor dragon worked so hard, risking her life for a single meal, was simple. She had young ones at home, a nest of hungry hatchlings. Her children were just a few weeks old, tiny and vulnerable, and were in desperate need of feeding, growing rapidly and demanding constant sustenance. Unlike those massive herbivorous dinosaurs, whose hatchlings were often quite robust from birth, most carnivorous dinosaur hatchlings, including those of raptors, were born weak and entirely dependent. So their parents often took care of them for a while, providing food and protection until they were strong enough to hunt independently. The constrictor dragons simply couldn't afford to risk their lives daily at the perilous cliff face. It was too high a cost for inconsistent returns. Fortunately, today was destined to be a significant day, a turning point for their struggling family. The long-term survival of this entire Velociraptor family depended on the upcoming migration of truly gargantuan creatures. On the other side of the scorching desert, stretching for miles under the relentless sun, there was a lush forest, an emerald island surrounded by a vast sea of sand. Seasonal changes, a blessing in this arid land, had brought rare but vital water sources to this area, replenishing streams and nourishing the earth. A large number of trees had sprouted rich, verdant leaves, creating a verdant oasis. This abundance, in turn, would attract a truly immense number of herbivorous dinosaurs, desperate for food and water after their long journey. Indeed, the long-necked Nemegtosaurus, a type of titanosaur, and the Mongolian titanosaur, towering giants of the ancient world, had arrived together, their massive forms shaking the ground with their passage. Amid such a large group of these colossal dragons, some smaller-headed dinosaurs, perhaps small ornithops or hadrosaurs, often followed, benefiting from the sheer numbers and protection offered by the larger herd. The primary benefit of forming such a massive group was, of course, to avoid predator attacks. There was safety in sheer numbers. However, during their arduous journey to the verdant oasis, they had to pass through a treacherous, maze-like canyon. This was also the only viable way to reach the forest, a bottleneck in the ancient landscape. Only by bravely crossing this perilous place could they truly survive the long dry season. And these dinosaurs, for all their seemingly simplistic nature, were not foolish. Every time they entered the narrow confines of the canyon, a palpable sense of anxiety would ripple through the herd. Because the instincts buried deep in their blood, honed by millions of years of survival, told them a stark truth. This was the best ambush point for those terrible unseen predators.